Hi everyone, this is our video on interferons. Let's get started. So let's say a virus, like this one, comes across a human cell, like this one, and then it binds to a receptor on the surface, like this. And it eventually gets endocytosed, like this, then replication, protein synthesis, and assembly, and then it gets released to infect all the other cells. Well, how can we stop this rampage by the virus? You may recall some drugs that interfere with the replication part, like acyclovir, foscarnet, or ribavirin. You may have even heard of drugs that interfere with the release of the virus. Can you remember what an example is? Of the neuraminidase inhibitors like oseltamivir for influenza. But those are all drugs. We're here to talk about interferons. Interferons are a part of our innate host defense. So they're built in. And they interfere with both RNA and DNA viruses. So when the virus comes along and infects a cell, the human cell doesn't just stand idly by getting affected, it reacts. It synthesizes interferons. They're glycoproteins, and they're warning signals for all the other cells nearby. The interferons get released to tell the local cells, hey, you need to protect yourself. There's a virus in me. What can the uninfected cells do when they get the message? They can do two things with interferons. They can try to turn off their protein synthesis, so if a virus does infect them, the virus won't be able to hijack its system and replicate. They can also send out more scouts to the surface to recognize if a bad guy is coming. Or in the case of our cells, they can upregulate MHC expression. So that's exactly what's written here on the slide, just less technically speaking. Interferons play a huge role in activating anti-tumor immunity. In this diagram, we can see that's what interferon alpha is doing here. It's interacting with a receptor to downregulate protein synthesis. Now, the interferons have a number of clinical uses. Let's see if you can name a few. What do we see here in this image? Well, they are dark, violaceous nodules. You're right if you said Kaposi sarcoma. Kaposi sarcoma is a neoplasm of endothelial cells caused by human herpes virus 8. And it's most commonly seen in HIV or AIDS and transplant patients. Now, how about this image? These cells almost have hair-like extensions to them. You're right if you said it's hairy cell leukemia. What can you see in this radiograph? Well, it's pointing to the kidney. Can you recall what is the most common primary renal malignancy? It's renal cell carcinoma. Bonus points if you can tell me what the most common subtype of renal cell carcinoma is. Oh, wait a second. Did you say clear cell? Because clear cell is the answer. Anyway, what can we see in this image? Well, it seems like there are periventricular plaques, and they're actually representative of areas of oligodendrocyte loss and reactive gliosis. Yep, you're right if you said multiple sclerosis. Now finally, what do we have here? It kind of makes me want to sing the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E. What do these letters stand for? So A stands for asymmetry. B for border irregularity. C for color variation. D for a diameter greater than 6 millimeters. And E for evolution over time. These are bad signs and could be indicative of malignant melanoma. This one in particular is an image of the superficial spreading type. Now, those are already a lot of good clinical uses for the interferons, but they are also useful for chronic hepatitis B and C, condyloma acuminatum, which I've spared you a picture of, and chronic granulomatous disease. Now, due to advances in research and technology, we're learning more and more about medicine every day. And there are more options available today to treat or to alleviate the conditions on the previous slide, which don't have as many adverse effects. Now, some of the adverse effects of the interferons include flu-like symptoms, depression, neutropenia, myopathy, and interferon-induced autoimmunity. And that's because the interferons are essentially activating the inflammatory response in order to fight off whatever infection they are attacking, and it more or less drains the body. Now, although this is not as frequently used as it was in the past, the mechanism for interferons is still a hot topic for the USMLE. All right, that's all I have for you here. Thanks for joining me. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and it will give you the opportunity to submit a comment if you have any feedback or questions. Thanks again. Study hard.